Hey everybody, welcome to episode 8 of Composing with Jerry. We're still working on Moses and the Brazen Serpent, and I apologize for not getting this out to you this morning, but had some family celebrations happening yesterday that kind of made me postpone this part of it, and actually last night when I was getting this all polished up, I started feeling some inspiration for the next step, so I worked through what I normally would have done for getting this ready. I worked through that composing. So, and I'm going to discuss that in a little bit. But so this week, I was able to transcribe all the stuff that we had done in the logic session with the children of Israel getting bitten by the serpents, and I have it notated in MuseScore. The playback doesn't sound what it's going to ultimately sound like, but it still will give you a kind of rough idea of that. I was pretty pleased with how that turned out. And then we move on to when the children of Israel are begging Moses to pray to the Lord to take away the serpents. And that's where I was going to be stopping. But then, like I said last night, I was starting to polish things up. I'm like, you know what? I already have an idea of what I want this to do. And so I composed out the prayer that Moses does with the accompaniment underneath the orchestra. And so let's go ahead and listen to that, and then we'll discuss my next steps that I want to do afterward. I'm going to put on my headphones here. All right, so where we left off last time is I basically stopped right here after to die, right? I'm out of Egypt to die. And because I didn't like the direction I was going. I still like the music, and I've kept it. It's archived somewhere else, but I wanted to move forward with this, and so I and one thing that's been taking time is because this is such a huge learning curve with MuseScore that I'm spending a lot of time just trying to learn how to do certain things to get things to sound a certain way I want to, or just how to notate things. So that's one of the reasons why I think this piece of music is taking so long. Normally, if I was familiar with MuseScore the way I was with Finale, this would have been done 3 weeks ago. But because this is still meant to be a learning exercise for me. I'm learning this software. I'm learning this process. So I need, so I can be more thorough and be able to do this in the future. And every day that I use this, the more facile I am becoming. But where we left off last time is we're getting ready to have the snakes bite. And please go back to the previous episode to listen to the logic session that I have. It's essentially what you're going to hear here, but it's sounding with it's going to sound a little better. And this doesn't play the effects. I've notated things, but it's not playing them as it's going to sound in the final recording of this. But I did polish up some of the sloppiness with the playing that I did before. And so let's just go ahead and listen to this. I'm going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play everything until I'm going to play the biting scene, and then we'll discuss the next part, which is the children of Israel begging Moses. So, all right, here we go. Let's just get started with to die, like I've been doing. All right. that is the scene of where they're getting bit by the serpents. And I'm just going to play each section a little bit here. Now, um, in the logic session, I didn't have the pizzicato things happening, and in this playback, you don't hear a lot of the glissandos happening that are here. This is just basically silent as far as here that's being played, but there's going to be all this other cacophony happening. So this is just the notated version of that, but it's going to be much better when it's done. But I'm just going to play just the strings for now, and we're gonna go through each section and just kind of discuss each of that. So we're gonna lead up to that starting here. And I'll get a little bigger here. So you don't. So basically, the lower strings are well, with the exception right here, but the lower strings are doubling what the lower brass are doing in there. So I basically wanted to reinforce that with the lower strings, while the upper strings are doing all these slides and glissandos and effects. But I don't have obviously any lyrics for the choir at this point, and so there's nothing here written yet. But I probably will have single syllables for each note. Just like, I don't know. We'll work on that. That's something I have not decided on exactly how I'm going to treat that. But but um, let's take the choir. Yeah, let's just take the choir now. So we're gonna start off with the 163. Oh, before I get that started, so again, you see this represented here as far as, and I'll have notated here, hey, glissandos, random, you know, not in time, that kind of thing, indicating to the player they can do whatever, basically what they want to, as long as they're doing some sort of glissandos. I'd like these violas to be a lot closer to the bridge when they do theirs, and a little more forceful on the string. And then these guys are just going to be doing their thing. I did want to keep that little pizzicato off rhythm thing happening, which I didn't have on the logic session, but I do. I like it here because it still gives you kind of the heebie-jeebie creeps, like, yeah, it just feels creepy to me. So I'd like to use that. And then I have a lot of that, but then I have this little section here where they're reinforcing the harmonic structure that's happening with the brass up here doing the dun 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 dun, right? And this does it too, but the cellos are split and they're doing the same thing. Dun 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 dun. But then this goes dun 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 dun, right? So it's reinforcing it, but it's going to have its own. It has its own sonority and texture in there. So that helps reinforce that. We go back to playing the effects, and then the lower strings are reinforcing what the choir is doing, and also what the I think some of the lower brass are doing the same thing. Yeah, so the lower brass are doing a very similar. So it's basically just reinforcing that. It's providing that support. And then we go into a new tonal center. We don't really have, well, when we end on to die, to die, to die, um, we are in kind of a G minor. But then this next section it's just got more of on a C, but we end up basically establishing an F, kind of, or an F. But it's hard. There's not really any really true tonal center in this because we're all over the place, but we end up going to an A minor section when the choir comes in and where the children of Israel are praying or begging Moses to pray. So let's listen to the choir there. Again, right now it's just on Oz. There is no. I don't have any text. I don't have any text for this. I was saying earlier in my introduction that I probably will get this done by this next week, or I was going to hope. But there's a lot of technical details that have to be worked out first, like doing the text, the lyrics for this. In the choir library that I use, which is East West Hollywood Choirs, there's a word builder portion of that where you can have it sing any lyrics that you want to, but it uses its own language called Votox, and you have to get every single one of those right in order for it to work for each of the voices. So that takes time. That will take some time getting it exactly the way I want to. And I haven't decided what I'm going to be doing here yet as far as this, but right now it's just going to be Oz. So. And then this is where I split the voices. I feel sorry for my sopranos, and my high tenors. But point is, that's kind of what's going to be happening. But all this time, they're going to be doing like syllables, but they're going to be nonsensical. It's just going to be more for as if they were another instrument in the orchestra. There's no message being communicated with this. This is just, they're getting bit. They're suffering. I will now talk about the percussion. We'll start with the. Let's see. Wow, we got timpani. We've got tam tam. We've got now. One thing I don't have notated here though is that I'm going to have the tam tam is going to have a bow being played on the edge, so this is kind of a very metallic, shimmering sound that gets louder as we get to this. And then I will have it strike right here. But this right now, just for that, I have a little buildup of a kind of a roll into it. But it's going to have either a suspended cymbal being bowed, maybe a gong. But right now I just have the tam tam. So, and if you want to know what the difference between a tam tam and a gong, Google is your friend. Tam tams tend to have a little more of a bright and brassy kind of a sound, where gongs tend to have a little more tone. They're usually, for more or less, you can actually kind of pitch those a little bit, whereas with tam tams, not so much. Okay, so I've got tam tam, I've got glockenspiel. There's no glockenspiel in this section. I do have shakers, which is kind of my rattlesnake type of thing. I have bass drum, And then for various drums, what I have right here, the lower markings are taiko drums, and these little ones right here, those are hand claps. And that's kind of the sharp, like when they're getting bit. I think that's kind of how I imagined it to happen. So um, yeah, so let's go ahead and play this. Well, I'll include the harp. Yep, and there's no piano. Yeah, that's that. So I'll include that. So let's go ahead and play those. I'll lead up to it, starting with 161. Okay, so we'll stop there. Um, it's kind of interesting listening to these just the sections by themselves, because especially with this part that comes in here, you don't have any downbeat. The clap is the downbeat, but you don't really hear it. So anyway, but in the overall mix, the brass and the strings are hitting down hard on that downbeat, and then it gives something for the bass drum to do the two and the four. So all right, so let's listen to the brass. Okay, so we have two sets of French horns. I'm all the way down to the two, but let's go ahead and listen to that. So get that centered here. So I have the trumpets are actually doubling the sopranos and the altos during, or maybe just the upper sopranos on that one. Yeah, just the upper sopranos there. Um, Essentially, I'm just giving that something to do because I've been focusing so much with the lower brass. The the French horns are playing in their lower register. The everybody's on the low end of things, and I just don't want the trumpets to sit there and twiddle their thumbs. Plus, it does give some strength to the sopranos when they're up in their high register. So, all right, let's talk about the woodwinds. Okay, let's get over here. Get to where we are. Okay, so we're going to yeah, we're gonna start with the big fast section here. So flutes all the way down to contrabassoons. Contrabassoons and the bassoons are basically helping support what the brass are doing at this point, and then the instruments come in and help support. But these are kind of like the strings where they're acting as more of a supporting role, and just keeping that loud and massive and epic sounding. Yeah, so let's go ahead and play this. So that's that. That's for the woodwinds. So again, playing kind of a minor role there. There is some flourishing happening with I use the English horn to do a lot of little flourishing as the oboes and the flutes are supporting again with the choir, the upper choir notes, while the lower woodwinds are supporting the lower brass and strings that accent those hits. So yeah, given just by themselves, this isn't really all that fun to listen to, for me anyway. But it was fun to write, and it makes sense in the overall scheme of things when everything's put together. Okay, so let's listen to that one more time with everything together. And let's see, to die, here we go. Okay, so now we're gonna play from this next section, which is a lot more sparse as far as orchestration, because it's essentially I have the timpani and the bass drum doing rolls, and they do have these little swells here every now and then, and this is to help us kind of remind us that we're still being bit, we're still having this happen, but now the children of Israel are begging Moses to, hey, we recognize that we've messed up. Please have the Lord take away this from. And I do have the um, I still have the pizzicato thing happening, but it's really soft. Almost you can still hear it, but it's really not part of it. This mix that you're hearing now with this is not how it's going to be, obviously. But I do have lyrics in this one, but obviously you're not going to hear the lyrics. You're still going to hear just Oz. But I do, when they beg him to pray to the Lord, I do bring in strings. I'll bring in the addition of the bassoon, who is going to be representing Moses. And so that comes into play, and then we'll get into Moses' prayer, which I think I'll do all of this. I'll do all that at the same time. So we're going to listen to this whole thing from there to the time he ends his prayer. Now Moses is going to pray. Okay, so that's that. Again, this is not the polished version of this, of course, but um, I still think you get the idea of what's happening here and the mood I'm trying to go for here. Well, what did you think about that? Again, the playback is not the way it's going to be, but you can see kind of where the direction I'm taking this. What I want to do next is after I want to have slightly visit him building the Brazen Serpent, and then I need to come up with a really good Brazen Serpent theme that will be playing while the children of Israel are being saved from the serpents. And afterward, I kind of want to end where we started, not miserable, not woe is me, traveling through the wilderness. We're still going to be traveling through the wilderness, but we're going to be more hopeful, more grateful, and more trust in the Lord to get us where we need to go. And so that's my goal for, well, at least, probably will take the next two episodes, but if things are going the way they are now, I've got some momentum behind me, and I've got some clear ideas of what I want to do. So I think I might be able to wrap this up maybe next week. But I'm not going to count on that, so don't hold me to that. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for commenting. Please comment, because that helps the visibility a lot and also helps me know what you guys are all thinking about this. I appreciate it so much. This is helping me keep the momentum of starting a project and finishing it. Last time I counted, I have like almost 200 pieces of music that I've started that I had really good ideas with, but then I never finish them because I lose that momentum and I just get another idea for something else and another idea for something else. And so this is a great way of keeping me focused on finishing something I've started, and helps me get things accomplished. And it's really good therapy for me. So again, thank you. I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I really do appreciate you being with me and sharing along with this process. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week for episode 9.